Okay, so I thought I'd splurge out and grab a one of these NanoVNAs, just a cheapie off eBay, and see what they're made of. And only got this yesterday with standard, or ordered it yesterday with standard freight, and it's already turned up. So I thought I'd do a quick unboxing of it, and then we'll jump into some testing of it and have a look at how it performs. Okay, a bit of a menu structure there. Have a look at the important part, the unit itself. So I got one with a case. Oops, put it in camera on frame here. You can get them without a case, but I thought I'd get the whole one. This one's meant to have a decent sized battery in it as well, and it's one of the larger screens, just shy of 4-inch, I think. Little switches on the top. Oh, and it does have some battery. Very good. We've got all the calibration connectors here to do all the calibrating. We've got a USB-C to USB-C cable. I don't know what the hell that's for. USB-C to USB-A. And we've got some male SMA to SMA. These male as well, yep, male and male. Alright, well let's plug this thing in and into an antenna and see what it's capable of. Okay, so we've got this analyzer hooked up to a half-wave Hyendfed from Hyendfed, actually, a 4-bander that I've been playing around with in a vertical configuration. Been doing a bit of tuning, so keen to see what the results are. So let's turn this on. And I have had a little bit of a play around to understand a few things with it. So I got it hooked up to the S11 port, or channel 0. If you've never heard of S11 or S21, which I hadn't at the start, I'll put a link to a great video that explains that, of how that all works. But basically the SWR readings that we'll be looking for will come from the S11 port. So first things first, when you first turn this on, it's going to be set to a full sweep across its full spectrum. So let's have a look. We go to, it's not quite obvious, but stimulus. And we set the start frequency, let's say 3 megahertz, 3M. And then the stop frequency, let's say 4 megahertz. And you can also see up the top here, we've got one trace enabled. It's channel 0, but it's log mag. So let's change that to SWR. Go back, display, format, SWR. Okay. And you can put multiple traces up here as well. So we go back, go to trace, I can enable trace 1. And the way this interface works, you'll see here that this blue channel 1 is highlighted. If I just tap trace 0 once, it moves back to that. So any settings I adjust now will be for that yellow trace. If I tap it again, it'll turn that trace off altogether. But I want to modify this second trace, whoops, not a third, the second trace here, channel 1. I'm actually going to change it to channel 0 also. And I'm going to format this one as, if we go to more, resistance. Okay, so now that I've got that, I've found the easiest way using this display here is use the little toggle wheel up the top here. We can toggle this, you can see the marker there because I've got the blue one selected. And if you have a close look up here, we've got our SWR reading, our resistance sitting here, and our frequency readout there. If we have a look at where the dip is, 3590, we're sitting at 1.47, 1.48 at 36, so that's about where I wanted the dip to be. And it's quite a sharp dip on this antenna. You get the gist. So it's about 100 points, I think, 100 points that it measures along here. So if we want to narrow it down a little bit and get a little bit more accuracy again, we can come back to here, set our start frequency a bit tighter on the band, and our stop I put at 3.8. You can see the touchscreen isn't the greatest, but for the money, I've got no complaints. So you can see here, what's that done? Just a little bit finer resolution there. And see our values changing. I'm just using that toggle wheel at the moment. You can do a full band sweep, but it is easy to miss something with that 100 points like that. On the PC software we can add more segments. So if I do say that, you'll see what I mean. So you know, there's only, as I move the wheel once, you can see how much it's jumping around there. Straight up. So we don't have the same level of resolution, but we get a good idea where the bottom of our dips are on each band. But you see there it's picked up 7.2 megahertz at 2.23. Let's narrow down on the 40 meter band, for example. 7 to 7.3 meg. And you can see there with the resolution, it actually missed a fair bit. So it's a good idea to, my best SWR there is sitting at about 7.153 at 1.16 as an SWR. You can see we completely missed that with that set that wide before. So that's looking pretty good actually. Yeah, so you get the gist there. So just to go back over that quickly again, your main one's in the main menu, hitting stimulus. By tapping the screen, you basically get rid of the menu. Tapping it again will bring the menu back up where you left it last. You've got display settings and trace to enable or disable traces and set the formats for those traces. What channel that trace is showing. And the format, so what sort of thing we want that trace to show. So with these two ports, S11 and S21, you can measure the impact of a circuit. So you know, say a filter, measuring the attenuation, or same with say a common mode choke or something like that. You can check and a coil or anything like that. You can check the effects of that coil. Basically, it measures what's received at the other port. There's a lot more other menu options here. Now I have already, that's probably the other thing, I have already calibrated this unit by using the little pieces that came with it. So your open, your short, and your 50 ohm load. One thing that can be a little bit confusing there, if we go into calibrate, so most of them are obvious, open, short, load. Now this one here, ISO, that's the ISO LN, that's putting the 50 ohm load on your channel 1 S21 port. Through is connecting the cable straight from S11 to S21, and that's it. The open, short and load tests up the top here. They're all done with the S11 port. That's pretty much all to show you there, but yeah, it powers up very quickly. Just going to check the 20 meter band quickly while we're at it. Might as well see what the results are. 14. Come on. I'm having to hit the touch screen a few times for it to pick that up. And one thing I've noticed without the stylus, it doesn't pick up finger presses very well, but it does pick up your fingernail a lot better. So we just scroll along here. Look at that SWR, beautiful. Looking good. Happy with that tune. Now this antenna also works on 10 meters. So let's plug that in. So from 28 megs to 29, whoops, make 29.7. Oh, a little bit different. Oh, something went wrong there. Because we can see our start's 14 meg. So let's try start. 28. It shows the range down the bottom here. Okay, what have we got now? Looks a bit better. Look at that. And we start climbing up pretty quickly towards the end of the band, but it's pretty good going. Just about the whole band. It is the whole band under 2. Perfect, no tuner on all those bands. Okay, let's jump over to the PC software and have a look at what the antenna looks like there. Okay, so we've got the software going. Now there's some different software out there you can get for this. A few different people have written software. This one I found provides the most functionality, the NanoVNA Saver. You can tell it is written, it's cross-platform, so written to work on Linux and Mac OS and Windows. And it can sometimes be a little bit flaky, I found, opening up the COM port. And when you open it, there's plenty of guides online on how to do that. But when you open this software, you come down here. If your Nano is not listed there, you hit scan. It's plugged in and to USB and powered on. It should find it, and you hit connect. Now I was getting an issue randomly where the app just would become unresponsive and look like it was locked up. In Windows 10, which I'm using here, 64-bit. I just go into Resource Monitor, find the Nano Saver EXE under the CPU tab, right click on it and say Resume Process, and that seemed to do the job and it'll come good. So there is a note I found online. It is, freeware that someone has developed. So there was a note that with certain versions of firmware it can have some challenges, and people were having various different issues. I've got the 4-inch one here, and I think it's in maybe manage, connected to NanoVNA-H 4, and then you can see the firmware revision down here. So people were having different experiences, but once you get the software going, it's pretty good. So again, this is set to a very wide sweep. Just finding your way around it, you've got 3 markers that you can use, and you can configure as many, well, not as many. If you come down to display setup, down here you can set up what you want to see. You can have up to 3 across 2 rows, so basically 6 different charts up at once if you so desire. And then in this display settings, configure how big the lines are and the colors, etc. I won't go through all that, and the thickness of the lines. By default, the thickness of the lines is pretty thin and pretty hard to see. You can change your background colors, etc. So it's defaulted to the full sweep, which is what this Nano is capable of, 50 kilohertz to 900 in one segment. So if I've got my marker 1 selected here, as I drag my mouse along the line, and I can do that in any of these windows here. I've got my S11 return loss, my S11 VSWR, and my reactances, resistance, etc. down here, and the quality factor over here. So you can click on, you can either manually key the frequency you want in here, or you can click on sweep settings, come down here to selecting band. I can select 80 meters, for example, and up here you'll see it's set to single sweep. I can change it to continuous sweep, which is kind of good when you're playing around with things, but I'll leave it at a single sweep at the moment. Set and set up here, and then we click sweep. Now you can set these lines, these green lines, or whatever color you want for VSWR points, and we can set our markers up how we like. So I can set one marker here, for example, then come across, select my next marker, set it there, and my next marker, set it there for argument's sake, or maybe just there. And then you've got your three sections here with all the different values. One other cool feature I like in here, and I've only played around with this a little bit so far, there's analysis. You can come to, there's multiple different ones that I'm looking forward to play with. I've got VSWR here, and you can set your limit to say, we'll leave it at 1 point, it's a little bit low, I might set it to 1.7, run analysis. So you can see here, this gives me a range of 1.7 or better. So my start and my end span, and where my center is between that. So it shows me where the antenna is centered. Still a bit lower than what I'd like. Anyway, and of course if you raise that a little bit more to 1.8 and run the analysis again, it's going to tell you quickly where that is on your upper and lower limits and your middle. You can achieve the same thing just dragging your marker along and having a look at the values. You can see them changing there as I go, and that's really good actually. I had that was sitting up at about 1.8 before. I've just put an earth rod in right at the bottom of the antenna, and a choke in line, and that's brought it right down. That's great. So that's basically how you use it. And you can see as I'm dragging that marker around, even though I'm clicking on this particular chart here, it'll drag the marker around the other charts as well, so you can see where you're sitting. Now the other good thing that you can do here, so we can come into files, we can save the file, either a 1 or a 2 port file, and we can load a previously saved file as a sweep or as a reference. So the difference being, if I load a file as a sweep, it's it will just show it like it is here. But if I load it as a reference, it'll be ghosted in the background and overlaid, so I can see the results of a previous measurement to the current one I'm looking at. So I'm going to do that, and because I do have some save files for this band measurement previously, I'll just see what it looks like. Okay, so I've got my reference file now loaded, which is the red line here. So you can see what my previous curve looked like. So just by earthing it, I've pulled the SWR in this down from about what was it sitting before, about 1.7-ish, down to 1.4 for 80 meters. Yeah, so that's pretty good. So you get the gist, that's what you can do there. And depending on what you're measuring, so I was doing a common mode choke, and I'd set up a bit of a jig to measure the common mode attenuation. So to do that, I was measuring between S11 and S21, and I was interested in what loss S21 was receiving. So if you want to load up a previous file, okay, so I've got the previous file loaded up. So these are S11 values. I, won't look too right here. You can see we've got no return loss from S11, but what I'm interested in is looking at the S21 log mag. So all I have to do is come down to the display setup and change one of these. If I scroll down, here we go, S11 and S21 log mag. Let's clear up some of these markers, delete those. Okay, so we can see here, I've done a sweep from 3.5 up to 30 meg, and you can see that it's minus 30 dB or better in attenuation. What's our dip there? Right down to minus 46 at 18 meg. So yeah, pretty happy with that choking performance. One other thing I'll show you to increase the resolution when you're doing a sweep. So let's change our display setup back to what we had it, which was VSWR for that one. I can say reset reference, so that gets rid of the other file overlay. We'll do a fresh sweep, but this time let's do it from 3.5 to 30. So basically it's sampling 101 points along that, and you can see the little dots within the sweep line there, and you can see that, you know, we can miss quite a bit of detail on the bandwidth there of the antenna with that number of sweeps. So what we can do is come up to segments here, and we can increase the number of segments. So we're saying 5 segments of 101 points. So let's sweep that again. Takes a bit longer, of course. You can see here the number of dots though, the number of points is significantly increased. So that is pretty handy if you just want to get a quick view of the antenna, but nothing beats, yeah, that 1.1. Nothing beats coming in and setting the band. You can see here it makes it pretty easy. In Australia here, well, we're up 7.3. I'll increase that a little bit. I've still got 5 segments, which is overkill for just doing one band. I'll change that back to 1. Again, we can see the performance there. Again, if we just do our analysis and say, I don't know, 1.6, run analysis. There's our width. We're sitting at about 100 meg wide under 1.6, which is pretty happy with that. Or under 1.8, not quite the whole band, but you get the span there, it's showing. So yeah, there you go. So hopefully you found that helpful. Certainly value for money. I mean, for what these things cost and what they show you, it's really unbelievable, really. What I might do is hook up the Rig Expert. I did another video on that a little while ago on the AA30.Zero. I might just hook that one up and we'll do a quick side-by-side compare on some sweep results and have a look at what the differences are. Stay tuned. Okay, so I hooked the Rig Expert up, and I did a sweep of the 80 meter band with that, same range, 3.5 to 3.8. Now we'll just, I'll put up 3 markers here. So a really high point here with SWR at as close to 3, just at the threshold of 3. Of course, I've just dragged my wrong marker. Let's put that back where it was. Thank you, there. Okay, so yeah, we're sitting at, for marker 1 at 3506 megahertz, and you know, effectively an SWR of 3. Let's jump across to the sweep from AntScope, and we'll have a look here where it goes to 3. So there we are. 3 is 3.506. What were we here? 3.506. Look at that. So SWR, you know, we're talking 3 decimal places there. So it's pretty much spot on. No differences there. And look at our dip at 3593 at 1.479. And bring up our AntScope. Now I need to move our cursor. 3593 looks like the same at 1.45. Where are we here? 1.47. Same frequency. So there you go. It's pretty much spot on with that one. Overall, I'm really impressed with this little unit, and the benefit really is that, you know, you can hold it in your hand. This particular one I've got, I've left running for a couple of hours while I've been playing around. I haven't run it fully flat yet, but it lasted no problems at all with the screen on there. It does dim a little bit, but it's great to be able to get that quick visual whole band sweep right in your hand, out in the field, as well as sitting in the shack getting a bit more detailed analysis. You can also hook the NanoVNA up to your phone. I tried it. Don't really. The app on the phone is okay, but I found it a little bit dicky dragging your finger around and on the plot, and of course the little pop-up window comes up with all the details right underneath your finger, and maybe I just didn't give it enough time to play around with that. But I can't really see the benefit of doing that when you've got a 4-inch display already sitting in your hand. Just do it straight on that. It might come in more handy. I think there's other nanos flying around with much smaller displays, which it probably comes into play a bit more with those. But for me, using it handheld and with the PC software is working just fine. Hope that was helpful. I'll sign off there, 73s, and hopefully catch you on the next one.